Even today, don't miss this one. On tour by Good Oteni, where we find African tales.
The busy city of Abuja, there lived a young man called Peter, who was 22 years old and full of quiet dreams about the future, even though his life was not easy at all. Peter lived in a very small house with his mother in a simple part of the city, where many hard-working people tried their best every day just to survive and to keep hope alive. Peter's mother was only 35 years old, but life had already made her very strong and very wise because she had spent many years waking up before the sun came out so she could go to the town market to sell fresh fish to people who came to buy food for their families. Every morning, she carried a basket of fish on her head and walked to the market with slow but determined steps because she believed that hard work was the only way she could give her son a better future. Peter loved his mother very much, and he always helped her whenever he could, because he understood that everything she did was for him and for the hope that he would one day finish school and live a life that was easier than hers. Even though they did not have much money, their small home was always filled with kindness, respect, and quiet laughter, because Peter's mother always reminded him that a good heart was more valuable than riches. Peter was a student in a university in Abuja, where he studied with great focus and patience because he believed that education was the bridge that could carry him from the life of struggle into a life where he could help his mother rest and smile more often. Every day he walked long distances to school with a worn bag on his shoulder and books that he treated like treasure because he knew that knowledge was the key to change his life. In the same university, there was also a young woman called Mary, who was 20 years old and very different from Peter in the way she had grown up, because her father was one of the richest businessmen in Abuja, and their family lived in a large, beautiful house where many workers helped take care of everything. Mary had grown up with comfort, fine clothes, and a life that many people could only imagine in their dreams. Even though Mary came from a wealthy family, she was known among her classmates as someone who spoke kindly to everyone and who treated people with respect, no matter where they came from, because deep inside her heart, she believed that every person had value. One bright morning on the university campus, Peter was walking slowly under the tall trees that gave shade to students who were passing by when he saw Mary for the first time, standing with her books in her hands while she was speaking gently with one of her classmates. At that moment, Peter did not know why, but something about her calm smile made him pause for a second, as if the world had suddenly become very quiet. Peter quickly looked away and continued walking because he felt shy, and he believed that someone like Mary, who came from a very rich family, would never even notice someone like him, who came from a small home where life was a daily struggle. But life sometimes has quiet plans that people cannot see at the beginning. And on that same day, something small was about to happen that would slowly bring the lives of Peter and Mary closer together in a way that neither of them expected. The morning sun continued to shine over the university campus in Abuja, while students walked from one class to another, carrying books and talking about their studies and their dreams for the future. Peter had already moved past the place where he had seen Mary standing, but the image of her calm smile stayed in his mind as he walked slowly toward his classroom. Peter tried to focus on his schoolwork because he had promised his mother that he would study hard and make good use of the opportunity she had struggled so much to give him. Even though his clothes were simple and his shoes were a little worn, Peter always carried himself with quiet dignity because his mother had taught him that respect for oneself was more important than the clothes someone wore. Later that afternoon, Peter was sitting under a large tree on the campus, reading one of his textbooks very carefully, because he did not like to waste time, and he knew that every lesson he learned brought him one step closer to the future he hoped for. The wind moved softly through the leaves, while the sounds of students talking and laughing filled the air around him. At that same moment, Mary was walking across the campus with a few books in her hands after finishing one of her classes. She was looking through the pages of a notebook while she walked, and because of that, she did not notice that one of her papers slipped quietly from between the pages and fell to the ground behind her. Peter noticed the paper as it slowly touched the ground, and he looked up to see who it belonged to. When he saw Mary walking away, he quickly stood up, picked up the paper, and walked after her with careful steps. When Peter reached her, he spoke in a calm and respectful voice and told her that she had dropped one of her papers while she was walking. Mary stopped and turned around with a surprised expression on her face before she smiled warmly and thanked him for helping her. Peter handed the paper back to her, and for a moment, both of them stood quietly, because Peter felt a little shy, while Mary looked at him with curiosity. She noticed that even though his clothes were simple, he spoke with politeness and confidence that made him different from many people she had met before. Mary thanked him again and asked his name in a friendly way, and when Peter told her his name, she introduced herself as Mary. For a short moment, they spoke about their classes and about the subjects they were studying, and Peter was surprised to realize that talking with her felt natural and comfortable. Before they went their separate ways, Mary smiled and told Peter that she hoped to see him again around the campus, and Peter nodded politely before returning to his seat under the tree with his book still in his hands, but with his mind now thinking about the unexpected conversation that had just happened. As Mary walked away, she also found herself thinking about Peter, because there was something honest and sincere in the way he spoke that made her feel curious about him. Neither Peter nor Mary knew that this small moment on the campus would become the first step of a story that would slowly grow in ways that would surprise both of them. And as the sun slowly began to move lower in the sky that evening, the path of their lives had quietly begun to change. The next few days passed quietly on the university campus in Abuja, while students continued with their classes, their assignments, and their daily routines. Peter focused on his studies with the same determination he had always shown, because he knew that every lesson he learned was important for the future he wanted to build for himself and for his hard-working mother. Even though Peter tried to keep his mind on his books, he sometimes remembered the short conversation he had with Mary and the warm way she had spoken to him. He had met many people before, but there was something about her calm voice and simple kindness that stayed in his thoughts. One afternoon, after finishing a long lecture, Peter walked toward the library because he wanted to review some notes before returning home. As he approached the entrance of the library, he suddenly noticed someone standing near the steps, reading a book carefully. It was Mary. For a moment, Peter hesitated because he did not want to disturb her, but just as he was about to walk past quietly, Mary looked up from her book and immediately recognized him. Her face brightened with a friendly smile, and she greeted him as if she had been hoping to see him again. Peter greeted her politely and asked how her studies were going, and Mary answered happily while explaining that she had come to the library to prepare for an upcoming test. As they spoke, they realized that they were both studying some similar subjects, and that discovery made their conversation feel even more natural. Mary suggested that they could sit together for a while and study, because it might help both of them understand their lessons better. Peter was a little surprised by the idea, but he agreed with a quiet nod, because he believed that studying together could be helpful. They found a table inside the library where the atmosphere was peaceful and the sound of turning pages filled the quiet room. For a long time, they read their books, shared ideas about their lessons, and explained difficult parts of their studies to each other in simple ways. As the hours passed, Peter noticed that Mary did not behave like someone who thought she was better than others, even though she came from a very wealthy family. She listened carefully when he spoke and respected his ideas, and this made Peter feel comfortable around her. Mary also began to see something special in Peter because she noticed that he was hardworking, humble, and thoughtful in the way he spoke about his goals. He told her about his mother, who sold fish in the market, and about how much he wanted to succeed so she could one day rest from her daily struggles. Mary listened with deep respect because she admired the love Peter had for his mother and the determination he carried in his heart. When the evening came and it was time for them to leave the library, they walked outside together while the sky slowly changed colors as the sun began to set. Before they went their separate ways, Mary smiled again and told Peter that she enjoyed studying with him and hoped they could do it again sometime. Peter agreed politely and thanked her for the company before he began the long walk back to his small home where his mother would be waiting. That evening, while Peter walked through the streets of the city, he realized that a quiet friendship had begun to grow between him and Mary, even though their lives were very different. And somewhere deep in his heart, Peter felt something new beginning to form, something gentle and hopeful that he did not yet fully understand. As the days slowly passed in the lively city of Abuja, the quiet friendship between Peter and Mary continued to grow in a natural and gentle way. They often met on the university campus after classes, where they spent time studying together, talking about their lessons, and sometimes sharing small stories about their daily lives. Peter always spoke with care and respect because he never forgot the difference between his life and Mary's life. He knew that while he returned every evening to a small and simple home, Mary returned to a large house where comfort and wealth surrounded her family. One evening, after finishing their studies, Mary asked Peter about his life outside school because she was curious to understand more about the person he was. Peter smiled softly before explaining that he lived with his mother in a small house not far from the town market where she sold fish every day to earn money for their living. He told her that his mother woke up very early every morning before the sun appeared in the sky and walked to the market carrying her basket of fish because she believed that honest work was the only path to survival and dignity. Mary listened quietly while Peter spoke because she had never lived a life like that before. Even though she had always respected hard-working people, hearing Peter describe his mother's daily struggle made her heart feel deep admiration for the strength of a woman she had never met. Later that same week, Mary also told Peter a little about her own life. She explained that her father was a very successful businessman in Abuja who had built many companies over the years, and that their family lived in a large home where many workers helped manage the household. Peter listened carefully while she spoke, and although he remained calm on the outside, he felt the great distance between their two worlds. He knew that Mary's life was surrounded by comfort, while his life had always been surrounded by effort and sacrifice. Even with that difference, Mary never behaved in a proud or distant way toward him. Instead, she treated Peter with the same kindness and respect she showed to everyone. And that simple quality made Peter appreciate her even more. One afternoon, while they were walking across the university campus, Mary looked around at the students passing by and said something thoughtful. She explained that even though many people saw wealth as the most important thing in life, she believed that character and kindness were much more valuable. Peter looked at her with quiet surprise because her words showed that her heart was very different from what many people might expect from someone who came from such a rich family. Their friendship continued to grow stronger day by day as they shared more conversations, more study sessions, and more moments of laughter on the campus. But Peter also knew that feelings were slowly beginning to grow in his heart, feelings that made him both hopeful and worried at the same time, because he wondered if someone like Mary could ever truly belong in his simple world. And while Peter was still trying to understand these emotions inside him, Mary herself had also begun to notice that her friendship with Peter was becoming something deeper and more meaningful than she had first expected. Neither of them knew that the next events in their lives would test their feelings in ways that would reveal just how strong their connection truly was. Life on the university campus in Abuja continued with its usual rhythm as students attended lectures, completed assignments, and prepared for their future careers. Among the many students moving across the campus each day were Peter and Mary, whose friendship had now become something very special to both of them. They often met after classes to study together in the library or to sit under the tall trees where the breeze moved gently through the leaves. What had started as a simple conversation over a dropped paper had slowly turned into long talks about life, family, dreams, and the kind of future they hoped to build one day. Peter always felt comfortable when he was with Mary because she listened carefully to everything he said and spoke to him with a kindness that made him feel respected. She never looked down on him because of his simple background, and that made their friendship feel honest and real. One afternoon, after a long study session, Mary suggested that they walk across the campus for a little while to rest their minds. The sky was bright, and students were moving around the grounds, while some groups sat together, laughing and sharing stories. As they walked slowly along a quiet path, Mary asked Peter about his dreams for the future. Peter paused for a moment before answering, because he had thought about that question many times in his life. He explained that his greatest dream was to finish his education and find a good job, so that his mother would no longer need to wake up before sunrise to sell fish in the market every day. He said that the only thing he wanted was to see her living a peaceful life where she could finally rest after so many years of hard work. Mary listened with deep attention and felt a warm respect growing in her heart because she admired how Peter thought about others before thinking about himself. She realized that his kindness and determination were qualities that many people with wealth did not always have. As time passed, Peter also began to notice that he looked forward to every moment he spent with Mary. When he woke up in the morning, he wondered if he would see her on campus that day, and when they said goodbye in the evening, he found himself hoping that the next day would come quickly. Mary also began to feel something new in her heart whenever she spoke with Peter. She felt calm and happy around him because his simple honesty made her feel comfortable in a way she had never experienced before. But even though these feelings were growing quietly between them, Peter kept reminding himself that Mary came from a very different world. Her father was a powerful businessman, and her family lived in great wealth, while Peter still returned each evening to a small home where his mother prepared simple meals after a long day at the fish market. Because of this, Peter kept his deeper feelings hidden in his heart because he was afraid that expressing them might change the beautiful friendship they had built together. Mary also sensed that their friendship was becoming something deeper, but she did not rush to speak about it because she wanted to understand her feelings clearly before saying anything. And so the days continued to pass, while both of them carried growing emotions in their hearts that neither of them had yet spoken aloud. But very soon, something unexpected would happen that would bring those hidden feelings closer to the surface and change the direction of their lives in a way they could not yet imagine. One warm afternoon on the university campus in Abuja, Peter and Mary finished their classes earlier than usual. The sky was bright, and the gentle wind made the tall trees around the campus move softly, while students slowly began leaving for their homes. Mary and Peter sat together on a wooden bench near one of the quiet paths where they often studied and talked. After a moment, Mary looked at Peter with a thoughtful expression and said that she had been thinking about something for a few days. Peter listened carefully as she spoke because her voice sounded serious but calm. Mary explained that Peter had told her many stories about his mother and about the small home where he lived, and hearing those stories had made her curious to understand more about his life outside the university. She said that she respected his mother very much, even though she had never met her. Then Mary gently asked if one day she could visit the place where Peter lived and meet his mother. Peter was surprised by the question, and for a moment he did not know what to say. His mind quickly imagined the difference between Mary's large, comfortable home and the small, simple house where he and his mother lived. He felt worried that Mary might feel uncomfortable in such a humble place, but Mary noticed the hesitation in his eyes, and she quickly explained that she was not asking because of curiosity about poverty or anything like that. She said she simply wanted to meet the woman who had raised such a hard-working and kind son. Her words touched Peter deeply because they showed that she truly respected his family. After thinking quietly for a few seconds, Peter finally smiled gently and told Mary that she would be welcome to visit their home any time. He explained that his mother was a very kind person who always treated visitors with warmth, even though their house was small. Mary smiled happily when she heard this because she felt excited about the chance to understand Peter's life more closely. A few days later, on a calm weekend afternoon, Mary traveled to the neighborhood where Peter lived. The streets there were simple and busy, with small shops and people going about their daily work. Peter met her at the entrance of the street and walked beside her toward his house. Mary looked around with quiet interest as she noticed the modest homes and the hard-working people who filled the neighborhood with life. When they reached the small house, Peter opened the door and called for his mother. Peter's mother came out with a warm smile on her face, and when Peter introduced Mary, she welcomed her kindly into their home without hesitation. Even though the house was simple and the furniture was modest, the room was clean and filled with a feeling of care. Mary spoke politely with Peter's mother and thanked her for welcoming her. As they talked, Mary could clearly see the strength and kindness in the woman who had worked so hard to raise Peter. Peter's mother also noticed how respectful Mary was, and she felt happy that her son had made a friend who spoke with such humility. For the first time, Mary truly experienced the world Peter came from, and instead of seeing weakness, she saw strength, dignity, and love inside that small home. That visit created an even deeper understanding between Peter and Mary, because their two very different worlds had finally met face to face. But far away in another part of the city, someone else would soon learn about Peter's growing connection with Mary, and that person's reaction would bring a new challenge into their lives.
And don't miss what will happen next after that.